If you are having suicidal thoughts and you're wanting or planning to act on those thoughts, please call or text 988 or chat on 988lifeline.org. Podcast is Powerfully Navigating Suicidal Thoughts.
And I'm passionate about creating an environment of love, acceptance, and understanding for those facing mental health issues, especially suicidal thoughts.
I'm Vicki, and I'm involved in powerfully living to end death by suicide. I practice the principles of family as a place of love, growth, and commitment.
Vicki, I am so glad to be meeting with you, and I'm looking forward to exploring breathing processes with you. I've so appreciated hearing about the different kinds, and I would love to be able to share that with other people. So I remember you saying something like, when you're very triggered, there's a kind of breathing that you do. So could you share that with me?
Oh yeah. So it's the more triggered I am, the simpler I keep the process. So I don't have to remember very much, right? And I can just
Good.
do it. And it doesn't take as much concentration. So, and I was doing this with a friend of mine that called me when she was triggered this week. And it's just basically breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And I try to make it so the breathing out's longer than the breathing in, so that you're getting, um, so that you have more, because usually when you have high levels of anxiety and you start having panic attacks, it's because your carbon dioxide levels are too low. So you want to have less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. That's
Oh,
why they have you
interesting.
breathe into a bag if you have
Ah,
anxiety.
interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the breathing out longer is important to kind of help calm the whole trigger state, is to breathe out longer than you breathe in. And that's keep it as simple as possible. So it's like breathe in. And I was doing this with a friend of mine over the phone. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. And I was just working with her to breathe with me
Hmm.
and trying to start with where she was at and get her to breathing out longer. And I do that with myself when I'm in a trigger state, get myself breathing out longer. So
I,
yeah,
I seem
I
to
usually try to catch it sooner than that, but it does get there sometimes.
So I think I remember you saying earlier um today that you also sometimes go for a walk, and that kind of helps get you into the rhythm of breathing in that way, and just a really easy pattern. And I was like, oh, that is so smart. That could also explain why when I'm really stressed about a conversation, I'm like, let's take it on a walk.
Yeah.
like I used to think maybe it's my way of distracting myself from the impact of the conversation, but maybe it's also
No.
just regulating the nervous system, because you'll get
Mhm.
into a particular pattern of breathing on a walk. And
Yes.
then also, like what you were saying, I was hearing you and your friend getting in sync with each other. And I think that's really calming. So maybe even walking and talking kind of produces that feeling of
Mhm.
in sync and connected. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And you can add things to it. Once you get present, and
Yeah.
that's why I like to use box breathing, is to get me in present time. If once I get past the initial
Yeah.
anxiety state, then to get into present time to be further um, grounded, I do the box breathing. So I'll breathe in the same, and if I'm anxious, I may just breathe in 2 counts, hold it 2 counts, breathe out 2 counts, hold it 2 counts. And I don't worry about how fast or slow that is. And
Yeah.
then I work up to 3 counts. And sometimes I will use my fingers with it. So I'll just counting 1, 2, hold 2, like that.
Okay.
And then I'll add 3 fingers.
I have to say at this point, that feels like a lot of math. Do you ever do a
Yeah.
timer so then you don't have to think about the counting? Okay. I might try a timer for myself because I'm
there
like,
you go. Yeah.
I don't know if I can do all of that at the same time.
Well, that's why oftentimes you don't use, you just do the breathing and don't even worry about how many counts it is. Just breathe in and breathe out longer than you breathe in.
Yeah,
That's the simplest. And
that's,
then,
yeah.
yeah.
The
And
box.
then I use the other box breathing when my thoughts are going everywhere, not when I'm haven't gotten to the hyper anxious state, but my thoughts are just jumping around. Then I do box breathing.
So it's really interesting because like when my thoughts are jumping all around, the thing that I've discovered is I don't necessarily manage the breathing, but I listen to the same song like over and over again because it helps kind of like contain the thought. Like it's like a way for me to ground into a particular thought pattern or like a thought that I need to like process. And that's so cool that I could probably take on the practice of like breathing differently in addition to like that other random thing that I do that seems to help.
Do you have a particular song you listen to, or does it change according to your?
It changes according to like what's going on. So it's not like sometimes the lyrics will resonate, but mainly the music needs to really feel kind of like the mood of what I'm trying to process. And so then like I'm getting into like this, like it's almost like I'm getting into sync with the music and my thought. And then I know that it's been processed either because like I've said or done something about it, or I stop listening to the song. Like I might go back to the song, but like freely, not like I have to listen to it all day long, on headset. And but it's interesting because like much later on in life, I learned that some people do that. I didn't know it was a process people did because my mom would also do that, but I thought she just really loved the song. But it could have also been the same kind of like it helps the brain process or stay focused because it is a recommended practice, I think, amongst ADHD because they say like the thoughts bounce back and forth, but the song kind of helps like keep the ball from bouncing and keep like a focus. So I thought that was fascinating, and I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that was like a study that I read a while back.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I tend to my favorite song to listen to is I'm Going to Be Okay when I don't feel okay.
That's a great song. Oh.
Yeah. So that's the one I go to because it helps me realize that there's all this stuff happening because that's what the song talks about, all this, lightning striking and this happening and this happening. But I'm going to be okay.
That's really great. I think earlier today when we were bouncing ideas off and like exploring, you were also mentioning something else that you did while you were triggered to calm down in addition to the breathing. Was there anything else you wanted to share in that area? And I think you mentioned journaling. I think that's what it was.
Well, I sometimes I do, and it's very specific. Like I start writing what's happening and where my thoughts are going so I can start. And then I find it helps. I don't know if you do this, Lisa, but I find it helps to take it out in conversation to somebody that can listen powerfully, not just anybody that's going to go into agreement with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have you're one of those people, but I have several people I can call that I know I can set them up. Like, I need to process through this. I need you to listen from, this is my commitment. I need you to listen from there. And then to what and I did that this morning. It was really great with a friend of mine, and she was able to help me see where what I was doing that wasn't working and how to just step right out of it. So, and stand inside of my commitment. So it was, and it's not giving me answers. It's just helping me see my own stuff.
Yeah. I recently got to try something new about like shifting out of the perspective like of being in my normal thought process or a trigger and into something else. And it was really interesting because like there's like the way that you think about something, right? So I'll give an example in this case so it's a little more grounded in reality. So it's the way that I think about forgetting. And oftentimes it's like, oh gosh, I didn't put it on the calendar, I didn't set an appropriate amount of alarms. Sometimes I'm thinking about forgetting, like, oh, do I really want to do that, or am I just like pretending that I want to do that or whatever? And instead of just looking at it from that perspective, like what if I looked at that same thing from like empowerment and what actually matters to me, right? And what I saw was like maybe forgetting could be seen from a context of like starting anew, trying again. And like, oh, I get the opportunity to try something again, right? So like I am really looking at what are some practices to like shift the way I'm looking at things. And sometimes it's just like you in the journaling. And then in this case, like I was looking at kind of like collaging this new space, this new idea. And I'm trying to think of what else, because you said something that made me think of like something else. Oh, I've been practicing, not always comfortable, but practicing letting people do dumps. Like just dump everything you have about this topic, right? Like say it all. And then like giving them the opportunity after saying it all to really look at that newly. Like maybe look at how it relates to something that's happened a long time ago, but really look at now what do you want to say about it, now what do you want to do about it, right? And so sometimes I think like journaling is that great opportunity to dump, and sometimes like it takes something to like just verbally dump with another person, but if somebody's like willing to create that with you, like, oh, you can let go of a lot of stuff in the conversation, you know. um and then there's someone else that has been practicing just like, you know um but what about now? Instead of looking at all this stuff that's been triggering or upsetting, but what do you just want to do right now in this moment? Like if you could have anything, what do you want? And oh my gosh, that is such a great conversation. But sometimes it does take all the verbal dumping and the journaling before you can just look at the now. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for letting me share all that. I got that was probably a lot in one sitting.
That was great.
Yeah.
So listeners, like write in the comments what works for you about breathing, or what have you experimented with breathing that works for you, and what other processes, music, walking, exercise, what else have you used that's worked for you in calming down your nervous system?
Awesome. Thank you.